everyone, welcome. In this video we're going to be talking about Metal in Black. This is a copy that I read along with the Libby audiobook. This is a traditionally published version. This has a bonus chapter with text messages between a group of people. And then we also have the first chapter, The Last King of Fairy. I already read that when the Kickstarter when that chapter came out, so I didn't reread it, I'll be honest here. I do also have Metal in Black in the Kickstarter. I didn't read this copy because I don't like the way the pages feel. I will not care for a book, so I went, since I have this version, I'm going to read it. I think that's very, I think that makes a lot of sense, very reasonable, that as an older version, greatly, I couldn't with the pages. But I came with these ones, so I'm going to read the one that the pages feel right. So, if there was any differences in terms of those 10 stories between the two, I couldn't tell you. We're going to go off this one. Okay, so I rated this book 2.25. Now, let's get into how I rated this and why I rated it this way. So, with Careful Books, I decided, because it was 4 stories, that I was going to rate each story individually, and then I took off, I think, 0.25 or something like that, because it was a chore to read them, and that's how we got that star rating. I would go suggest watching that video because I think I explained it better. With this, I didn't do that because there was 10 of them. So I just rate this book as a whole. Usually I rate collections like this as a whole. Careful Books was the outlier. With this, I put Metal in Black, not Careful Books, along with all the other collections in the universe, so Bane Chronicles, Tessa Shadowhunter Academy, and Ghost of Shadow Market. I also call them bind-ups, right? So I'm putting that alongside them. So that is the direct competition for the star rating within the series. Careful Books, I don't consider to be like them, because there was only one Shadowhunter book story in it. There's only one Shadowhunter story in it, and the other 3, I can see how they are related, but they were not Shadowhunters, so I don't really consider it to be one of the bound up copies of Shadowhunter Chronicles stories. So that is something to keep in mind with this rating. Another one is I look at 2 things as well. I want to look at the author and her other, or their, speaking generally, but in this case, her, for Cassandra Clare, other works that I have read. I'm going to compare them to each other, especially if they're in the same series or same universe. You can also look at it as when I'm reading Sarah J. Maas, I'm comparing them to all of her other books. Okay, so I compare them to the other books in the series and same books of the author. The other thing is I'm going to look at Storygraph, and I'm going to look at my other star ratings and see where it falls, see where it feels. I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to go, do I think that this book is better, in my opinion, than this one on the same par? What is it? So I was looking at AO5, which is why I brought up Sarah J. Maas, and I think it is on the same rating. For different reasons, but I still think that. With 2.5, why I couldn't go there is that is what I rated Onyx Storm, and I don't think I enjoy this book, or I think this book is as good, in my opinion, as Onyx Storm is. And if you saw Onyx Storm, that video, then you would know I really didn't like some things. I had some problems with it, but I overall enjoyed the book. I would say with Metal in Black, I overall did enjoy the book. So if you see that it's not 3 stars or higher, that's not me saying I don't enjoy it. That is me saying 3 is good to me. I think 4 is great, and 5 is excellent. So you gotta keep that in mind. That's how I rate them. If you rate them differently, I love that for you. If you rated this book higher, I also love that for you as well. So let's get into the actual story. So it's gonna be spoilers here. I'm gonna start with light and then go farther in. I enjoyed them more once I did not consider them romance stories. My biggest issue while reading it, until I made that active decision of not considering it romance, is that they weren't romance stories. Yes, Will and Tessa, they are on their honeymoon. That is a romance story. Yes, absolutely. Then we're going to go to James and Cordelia. Neither James nor Cordelia are the POV or characters. It's Lucy. And it's about Lucy finishing her story. Yeah, James and Cordelia's love is there and they love each other. But I would consider that a love story between the two of them when they were just kind of there and having to prove that they love each other, but ultimately it has to be satisfied. So it's not even their love. It is Lucy's characters and them trying to get those 2 characters also together. I wouldn't consider that to be a James and Cordelia love story or a romance story. They are just there. Sure, it could just be semantics, but still, Luke and Jocelyn. Yes, Luke is in love and writing to Jocelyn, but we're not getting Jocelyn's love back. They're just confession letters. And a lot of it is just us getting Luke backstory, which I enjoyed Luke's backstory. I really did. However, I don't consider that to be a romance story at all, because he's writing to someone who we know is going to wake up and they are going to get together, but it's mostly us learning backstory with him. So these are kind of what I'm talking about. Let's also go to the Seelie Queen and Sebastian. This is the biggest one. I don't consider that one at all to be a romance story. Yes, the Seelie Queen wanted romance and was doing things with Sebastian. Sebastian basically made it clear that it wasn't romance with him. He wanted Clary. So it was unrequited. Sure, we can make an argument for that, but the biggest part of the story is the surrogate mother finding that she actually loves Ash. And it's not romantic. It's not romantic. It's maternal. That is the big part of it. And I think, again, there was a big problem for me in the fact that these, I wouldn't consider the majority of them to be actual romance stories, and most of them, or at least some of them, don't even have the main couple as POVs. Actually, I don't want to say most, it's just a few. It's just, let me look at them. So Luke, he technically is out with Jocelyn, is asleep. Okay, it's just the Seelie Queen and James and Cordelia. I was really dramatic though, but I still don't think that they are a romance. That's not, at least from what I can remember the Kickstarter, that's not what I was under the impression that they were going to be. So I will point that one out there. So taking away the romance tag, I enjoyed them much more. I think also the thing that brought down the score is because, well, yes, there was going to be fluff, and there was going to be stories that continue the plot, and is like foreshadow. I don't think that it was equally balanced or done in a way that felt natural. Most of them, I think it was very clear which one of these stories is going to be. I don't like that Anna and Ari's story is right before Julian and Emma's, because both, so we have Anna, whole thing is like, oh, she has this fairy that she upset, made a whole bunch of clones of her, right? And so you have a, is she cheating, right? And then we're going to go to Emma and Julian immediately after on how they, is he cheating? And he was. With Emma. A different version of him, but still, and I don't really like this whole fall thing as well, simply because I'm like, are we really going to go and take all the characters that have died previously and bring them to their world? Okay, so it doesn't matter if the characters have died. It doesn't matter. Because we'll just go to a different dimension and bring back what the Clay considers demons. So, from what I can recall, the definition of a demon, right, and I could be wrong on this one, I need to do a reread, I'll say that, but for a whole, like, few books, the definition of a demon used to be any being from a different dimension coming into theirs. That is what they considered a demon. Then Angel Raziel in City of Glass said, a demon is someone who does not have a soul. That's a demon. That is not what Shadowhunters classify as demons, though. The Angel and Shadowhunters, they don't agree on it. Now, maybe after that, maybe there were some rules that were brought up. However, it doesn't change the fact that Emma, at least at one point, is considered a demon. Janice, Jace, is also considered a demon. So if they bring anyone back, like, and I know it's something small, but I'm just like, so do we not have consequences? Are we going to go to a different dimension and take those versions of them and bring them back, and then death doesn't matter because you have a different version of them? Is that what we'll, like, I really hope that's not where we're going, but it kind of does feel like that's what's going to happen with Livy. And I'm like, your Livy is a ghost. Your Livy is a ghost that is following on Ty. Handle that, put her at rest before you bring another Livy here. Like, even with Emma, I think Emma saying that the reason why she's dying is because she's not supposed to be there. I'm like, what about Thol Jace. Is he having the same problems? Do we know if he is? Then he should be. Would it... Which brings me to another thing in which I feel like this is kind of plot holes. I'm gonna be honest, we'll get there when we get there. I made some TikToks about it. Let's do Will and Tessa. Will and Tessa, I understand that story. I feel like Will needs to be kind of put to rest. Stop, like, bringing him up all the time. Like, she is with Jem. I understand a lot of people love Will. I'm not saying I don't like him. It's just a matter of, it's like, okay, why didn't we get a Will and Jem story instead? We had a lot of time with Will and Tessa. So if we are trying to propel, for the most part, with a new, like, why are we not getting a whole bunch of Jem and Tessa? Now, one might argue wicked powers. I will give you that. And some of the Ghost of the Shadow Market. However, I'm like, why are we still so focused on this? And not share that, like, that doesn't really make that much sense to me, besides, like, fan service, but I'm like, Jem is also her husband, and people love them. And the whole thing is, well, Tessa never chose, so why is it that we're always choosing to have the stories be with Will, and not with Jem? When a lot of these is... Honestly, I don't think I would have minded if Will and Jem had one, and Will and Jem, I'm so sorry. I don't think I would have minded if Will and Tessa and Jem and Tessa both had one in here. I think that would have made more sense. I'm just like, why is it always those two? Can we give Will a break? Let's move on with it. So I thought that made a lot of sense for his character. With that, we'll move on to James and Cordelia. I didn't really like this one. Instead of having a story between the two people that she said it was going to be about, and instead gave one about Lucy trying to figure out a story. I don't know if this Gradle Demon is going to be important. I will say it's a plot hole. I will say the Gradle Demon coming back for Simon and Izzy, that is a plot hole. Because Lucy makes it so they are in their own dimension and they can't come back. They are happy where they are, and they can't come back. So how do they come back? So how do they make it? And it's not even like she was in holes and that... No. She was in... Like, it... She had to flee into Lucy's book. That's what happened when Bale died. She fled into Lucy's book. Lucy then changed her realm and said, here you go, here's a love interest, he'll love you forever, we're not asking the frog if he wants this. Whatever. It was like, you can't ever come back. Roll that in. So how are they back for Simon and Izzy? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. So it contradicts itself within the book itself. Jocelyn and Luke. I already talked about this one. This is just basically Luke's backstory. I have enjoyed it. I mean, it's not a bad story. Like I said, it's more of a love confession type of a thing. I liked actually seeing how the downworld was to other downworld during that time. I find that to be, interesting. Thomas and Alastair, I didn't like this story. I'm sorry. Like, after a while, it's just like, oh, magic object, or something, like... So, with the whole Zachary turning into an old man, and then Alastair realizing that, like, he gets to, like, treat Zachary as, like, a child, and try to heal the, father wounds that he has. I love that for him. Turning a baby into a grown adult and having him be chased around... I didn't really like it. I will say with Will and Tessa, we did learn about an artifact that Tessa should probably have at this point that allows you to walk through walls. So hopefully that gets brought up again. Will it? I don't know. Now let's go to Kieran, Mark, and Cristina. This one, I like this one. I did. I think that it just showed a very interesting couple dynamic that we normally don't see, especially here. And I like that she's like, no, this is not just like a thing, like this is a real relationship, that she's actually putting a lot of effort into that. It's very clear that they are all together, they love each other very much. So I love that. I love that the three of them are so deeply in love with each other. I understand why it was anticlimactic. The thing that I'm looking into. So is this King of Fairy Kit, or is this King of Fairy Ash? Ash has no claim to the title King of Fairy. He can be the king of Seelie Court, but he cannot be the king of Fairy, both courts. He has no claim to Unseelie, just as Kieran has no claim to Seelie. So I'm like, this definitely has to be Kit, but not Kit specifically. I think it's that woman from that fairy, I forget her name, but she got introduced or like really talked about. We saw her for oh my gosh, like a story in Seamus Blackthorn Manor. And I think that woman who was the caretaker, I believe the one who smuggled the child, the daughter, the Seelie, Unseelie King and the Seelie Queen, her, that nursemaid, who was like, Kit, I can't really remember what happened. The one that, when Mina was kidnapped. I can't really remember what happened in it or what she said. Nottingham? Is that what I don't remember. Maybe she is getting people together to, I don't know, like, rally behind Kit? Because technically, yeah. Shouldn't he be the rightful ruler? I mean, they're not wrong. He is the child of the child. I can't remember how many generations, like 2 or 3, I think 3, maybe 4 generations of the purposeful ale. That then they went, no. Like, he is the lost ale. Not because necessarily he's a lost Heron ale, but because of his family connections. So maybe that has to do with him. But I also don't see him actually setting out to do this, especially, I don't see him setting out to do this with Infernal stuff, and I don't see Ash potentially, or Ash or Jace using Infernal stuff, but I mean, it's also Thol Jace, and Thol Jace was close to Thol Sebastian, and we know that the other Sebastian was okay with using such things, or at least Sebastian, what's his name, Valentine was. I mean, literally look at Sebastian, he is part demon, or at least has a little demon blood in him. So I think it would make sense if a faction was trying to get Kit on the throne. They would do that to be able to lie. However, it doesn't feel like the Seelie Queen. Because the Seelie Queen would just send someone who can lie. I don't see her using infernal stuff. It doesn't feel like her character. It really doesn't. So that would mean it would have to be Thol, Jace, and Ash. And I don't think Ash is going to be a bad guy. Lily's probably going to end up with Ash. I don't think Ash is bad. I'm going to say it. I don't think Ash is going to be bad. Right? Thol Jace, the hunter, potentially. I said this to someone and they laughed and said, yeah, that makes sense. I honestly think that if Thol Jace approached Clary, and not like Ghost of Shadowhunter, but like actually approached her and just said everything and told her, Clary, I believe her character would just be with both Jaces. I think that she would. I'm going to be completely honest. I think she probably would. I'm not saying that as a knock or be like, how. I think that she would just think about them as both Jaces. And simply be like, you know what? Can't send you home? Okay. Fine, what do I I'm gonna call you Jonathan? So I did obviously find it very intriguing. That one I think was a very beautiful fluff and foreshadow, or like adding in, you will probably need to know, so should know this, or the signals, what's gonna come up foreshadow for the next ones. I thought that was a well-balanced story in that aspect. Do I think the others are gonna be this way? No. Well, I know they won't. Anna and Ari. I didn't dislike it. I also just didn't like it. What I did love is that Anna and Ari are very secure in their relationship, or at least Ari is very secure, meaning that Anna really did put in that work in the trilogy. I do also think how much of just my love of the last Owl characters is influencing this. I didn't like Sylvie and Roselle. I don't like him, guys. Careful of books, it will explain it. So I didn't personally like that he was there, but he wasn't there very long. So that aside, so with Anna and Ari, there was a part of me that does think that because I like The Last Owl so much, I like the story more than potentially I should be giving it credit for, and how much I like it. Like, that said, though, I do think, well, I said I like it. I mean, it's complete and utter fluff. There was really, I think, if this was moved to another thing and then Emma and Julian didn't have a is he cheating moment after Anna didn't cheat, but it looked like she did, I think that also kind of ruins for me a bit of the story as well. But then again, we have another magic thing is the reason why shenanigans are afoot. And by magic thing, I mean magic spell, not the fairy. I also thought that Anna wasn't saved. I'm going to be honest. A part of me didn't think that she chose. And I think that she chose so fast that it was like, what's the point of this? What is the actual point in this? Because it wasn't climatic. It was, I gotta go that's all. And then it was all. And then they left. Or she left. Both of them left, right? And then she waited for Anna and then to come back. They did. So though I didn't really feel like anything happened literally at all. And then you have Emma and Julian, in which it is he cheating? And like we've already pointed out, yeah, he did. He cheated on Emma with Thole Emma. He danced with her, and he did, I believe, kiss her. He admitted it to her, and he told her why he did it. And she was like, okay, yeah. But it doesn't change the fact that he still did do it. Yeah, he did to get more information on Thole Libby. Not even his Libby, but Thole Libby, to see what's happening, to gather information. And it didn't get him anything. So, and then we hear about the mask, Hunt will die again, obviously Thole Jace, and yeah, like I don't necessarily see a point of the story besides knowing Thole Jace is trying to pull Raphael over, which, the thing is, Thole Raphael is not going to help Thole Jace. It's not going to happen. I think that went out the window when Thole Jace became, like, no. So, so you're trying to aid it. I don't see how that really is going to help him try to get Clary, which again, I think if he just went up to Clary, explained the situation, he could just be with her. I truly do think that. I went in Isabelle, this one, plot hole, how is a great old demon there? Also, why is he taking advice from a demon frog? And I mean, at least the demon frog is being honest, being like, well, you want advice from me? Sure. But the advice from me is just going to benefit me. Oh, you're saying I'm running from my problems? And my advice would be, what did you think I was going to do? Of course my advice is going to be run from your problems. Because that's, like... Also, he should have took a job. Is he, for sure, does not love him as much as he loves her. That might be a wild take. However, a year of her life at a school, so he can set himself up and his family up as Lovelace's, if they ever have children, right? Him feeling established and actually connected into the world that he chose to be in. Having actual connections that he did not inherit from powerful, notable families? Yeah, he should have taken that job. That was a very good connection for him to have made. And she didn't want to give up a year. Something in which, the alliance would have lasted a year with everyone else working. It would have. I don't know. Maybe Alec and Magnus are a good example of the Alliance. Yeah, she's the head of it, or one of the heads of it, but that does not say that there can't be other people that step up for a year. Simon gave up his life 2 times for her and the people that he cares about. 2 times he did that. Okay, once when he gave up being a vampire, and the other when he gave up being a human and went to the academy. 2 times he did that, not even counting the time that he followed Clary, his now Parabatai, and then became a vampire. Because that one, he didn't choose to do that. That choice was taken from him by Clary. The 2 times I said in which he gave up his vampirism, and then the other time is when he gave up being a human to go to the academy. So he gave up his life 2 times, and she can't give up a year to go to a school in which she probably also could have done some good. She went to the Shadowhunter Academy, so it's not like she's above going to academies, and going to academies even to be with him and to talk to him, because that happens. So, yeah, she manipulated him. Oh, you missed the whole story of Luke and Leia. I don't care what the story of Luke and Leia is, and him saying, I know, and she didn't have to confess it. I don't care. Was it Luke and Leia? Whatever, it wasn't all. Or whatever it was, like I don't know Star Boys. That comment with the Star Boys, and she confesses and he just says, I know. Whatever Star Boys thing that is, that's what I'm trying to talk about because of them. I don't even care what she is trying to invoke here. Because the thing is, it's a year of her life that she is not willing to give up. When the Alliance can survive without them, because there will be people there that can pull through. For a year, she did not give up for her partner. They should not get married because she does not want to and does not think that she should put in enough or the same amount of effort that he does for her. And he has done for her. You know what? At least we know Clary will do the same for him too, or will try to. Like, it was Clary who did kill Sebastian. So we know, and Valentine. Right? So, and she was like, hey guys, where is he? And City of Bones, Glass. And she was the one that went, I don't care, I'm going to get my friend back in City of Bones. So, yeah, no, I don't believe that Simon and Isabelle should be together. And this just proves that she does not love him as much as he loves her, and he gave away setting himself up for someone who doesn't have to think about setting herself up because she has had generations after generations already doing that for her. Comparing her to that relationship as a parallel between the Great Old Demon and that frog demon, in which that frog demon didn't even get to decide if he wanted to be with her until after all that stuff what Lucy wrote in. I don't even think that the narrative is saying that they should even be together. We're gonna move on. I got heated. Jace and Clary. Having Clary say, a love like no other, or a love that is like challenging, or people wouldn't understand, and it's just like, you know what? I think that people prove their love and have a love like no other, and they don't have to think about getting with who they think they are related to. We can talk about all the other ones, and like it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you were willing to do that. That doesn't necessarily make it so special. And I think the reason why the narrative is trying to say, like, even with Lost Over the White, that whenever someone is like, you wouldn't understand, and basically like a social taboo, they're like, we do, and it's just like, just because you would have been okay with pulling a Jaime and Cersei Lannister, that like maybe that shouldn't be the thing that you're trying to compare it to. We all know the City of Glass. We all know it, especially if you're in this fan. We all know it. In fact, someone can hold up a book that does not say it's City of Glass, and we will know because that's the line that they're going to read from it. The other thing is, I put this on TikTok. There is a plot hole. One, that's not how genetics works. Yeah, even if you're stripped, that doesn't make you not a Shadowhunter. You just can't bear the marks of them. Also, your children are still Shadowhunters. And yeah, they are going to track you. You're not just going to disappear, probably. How do we know this? Well, can I remind you of the first story? Will and Tessa? And what do we know about Will? Will's father fell in love with a human, and his wounds were stripped. And then Will talked about how, yeah, sometimes they would come and try to, like, convince them, you know, that, like, that's how or if I'm misremembering it, what I do know is he knew all he had to do was go to an institute, declare himself as who he knows he is, and he would be taken as a Shadowhunter, and that's what happened. They knew where they were. They knew where the Herondales were, and it was talked about how they would go to these families and tell the kids, hey, if you want to join us, we can take custody of you, and your family can't stop us. And with this, it is Edmund leaving for a love match, and Will knowing that he can go, and that's what he did. He went to an institute. So you're telling me that Max, formerly known as Trueblood, so Max Trueblood, married and left and had to, like Edmund, for a love match, and then he had a kid named Noah, and somehow no one was able to find him? So this system was set up in Victorian era, and Will describes it, says what he did. We have a whole character about it. And yet, oh, but we don't know how to find them? Okay, so what happened to that system? It's not like Kit. Kit comes from the Tobias line of the Hamlet. No, so Tobias and Will. Now, Tobias, he left, right, his post, and they were like, you have to die for that now. And they were going to do the same to his wife, his pregnant wife. Now, a warlock made it look like the baby did not survive. The clave was under the impression that the baby did not survive from childbirth. Okay, then that warlock took the baby. So that makes sense why the lost Herondales were able to slide under all that kind of stuff, right? And then you have, and then though you do have brother Zachariah, Jem, figuring this out only because a great old demon, I believe, told him, by Bale, or, you know, so that's how he found out. And it's like, well, how did well, I don't know, maybe because it was warlocks, or at least a warlock hiding them, and then you had the whole lost ale thing, and she real powerful, because, you know, king, queen, and then they also had to hide for that, so it makes sense why they couldn't find them, and it wasn't until somehow, I forgot how, Jen found him the first time, and then them being like, here's a device, like, no, yeah, and then here's a device, and then we eventually, you know, get that whole thing. With Jocelyn and Clary, Jocelyn faked her own death, and no one knew that she was pregnant because she didn't know she was pregnant. They thought Sebastian dead. That's why they didn't look for Sebastian, or Jonathan Christopher Morgenstern. That's why they didn't look for him, because they found what they thought was his remains. That's why they didn't look for him. With Jocelyn, no one knew that she was pregnant, including herself. Valentine didn't even know. Right? So that makes sense why they didn't even look for Clary, because why would they? In this case, it is exactly the thing that they will look for. He left for a love match. More than likely, with all of these stories, he might have a child. And that's what happened. Now, do I say that all romance and marriages must have children? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it is a story here, which it will probably end with one. We have one. And that's literally what it is. Baby Noah. Now, on top of that, they do not have a large, they don't have a large group of Shadowhunters anymore. They didn't have a lot. Enough for every institute. Okay? And then on top of that, we have the conclave. The ones in interest. So, one might say, well, the resources. The resources that they should have already given out and had. And that's assuming that they were doing it some kind of mundane way, which she wasn't even far from a city, mind you. Which she wasn't even far from them, mind you. Mind you that. Right? And he was talking to Downworld sometimes, too. So if it was some mundane way, they probably would have had the resources. And he wasn't hiding. He was a professor at a university. That means you had to have a PhD. Which means he had to be at a program for a long period of time. Like, he would have been so easy to track. He would have been so easy to track. Then on top of that, we add, he probably was not magically hidden. I don't believe it said that he was magically hidden. And he probably had some magical rune that made them do it, like made them able to find them, because we do have a tracking rune. I legitimately think Clary made a rune that already existed. The True Bloods are not a nobody family. And then his little sister married into one of the more notable family. You honestly think that Robert did not like are we being for real here? So I have to move on, because it is so frustrating. Me just thinking of these two plots, like it's legitimately frustrating. Okay, but we do have this whole prophecy. Makes sense. We are heading into the last trilogy that we have. It makes sense. We have a prophecy that the Shadowhunters are going to all get rereaded. I want to know the prophecy. I wanted to know, but it makes sense we don't know it yet. That does kind of feel like a main book thing. Yeah, I don't think Ash is a bad guy, especially after that story. Like, I think Sebastian's eyes making tone green too, and that was a good version of him. So I think that it's just I would get a little annoyed and a little bit frustrated if we had the big bad Valentine, Morgenstern, big bad Sebastian, Morgenstern, big bad Ash, Morgenstern, because especially because I thought we were going into this, the big bad is in fact, the Princess of Hell, because it's a war between demons and Nephilim and Shadowhunters, half human, half angel, whose sole purpose is to banish, kill, all that kind of stuff, demons from their dimension. Like, I don't know. I thought that might be the big thing, So if those is the big thing, yeah, I'm gonna get annoyed. Yeah, I'm gonna get annoyed, because why did we have that epilogue that says, oh yeah, we're gonna seek a meeting, like they're all gathering. Yeah, like I would be annoyed. Okay, so we take no risks here. Okay, interesting. I read all these books, and it's another Morgenstern. Interesting. And Ash is the love interest of Livy, and she, I don't really have a lot of feelings and thoughts on Livy, but it seems like that is the thing. So I don't think that she would have the bad guy be. Is he going to be probably morally gray? Probably. I'm not saying he'll be morally. I just don't think he'll be the bad guy. Do I feel bad with the City Queen? No. Did I kind of realize that the reason why he was interested in the City Queen is 1, power, and 2, because she had red hair? Yeah. And I literally thought, she doesn't deserve that. I don't. But then I'm also like, she also did do very horrible things to please him, and just probably very horrible things in general. So I'm not going to feel bad for her. Hearing, though, that the person that you love would rather, Sebastian, that had to be devastating. And so part of me feels bad for the character, thinking about, like, that would be devastating. Like, that's horrible. Like, imagine. Yeah. Ash and the story. I did think, oh, did she choose her because she had the last one? And I was thinking, like, oh, is this like like the same wet nurse that she had, and that's why she chose her, and then she went on the spiral, and that's how we'll get Ash and Kit to be, and then it didn't.